Today, we present selections from the Mother's prayers and meditations, Be Instruments of the Divine, Part 2 of 2, as we continue our inner journey of self-realization. Mira Alfasa, who became known as the Mother or Sri Ma, was born in 1878 in Paris, France. Although she showed great artistic, musical, and writing talent at an early age, her real interest was the spiritual side of life. Based on her inner experience and guidance by a saint she later recognized as Sri Aurobindo, she traveled to India in 1914, where she met him for the first time.
As soon as I saw Sri Aurobindo, I recognized in him the well-known being whom I used to call Krishna, and this is enough to explain why I am fully convinced that my place and my work are near him in India.
Sri Aurobindo conferred the title of the Mother in recognition of her embodiment of the principles of the Divine Mother. When the decision was made to create an ashram in 1926, Sri Aurobindo entrusted all the spiritual and material tasks of running the ashram to the Mother. For the next 50 years, under her loving guidance, the ashram developed into a spiritual center for truth seekers. The Mother went on to found two more organizations, the Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education, offering courses from kindergarten through university level, and a visionary community called Auroville, or the City of Dawn. The Mother also developed an extensive series of spiritual writings. These highlight a goal of ultimate union with the Divine, along with becoming master of ourselves and our destiny. Shining through all of her work is the Mother's love and devotion to God. Though she left her body in 1973, the 17 volumes of collected works of the Mother forever serve as a shining guidance and inspiration for spiritual seekers. The following passages come from the Mother's first spiritual diary volume, Prayers and Meditations. For more information about the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, please visit sriaurobindoashram.org. February 12, 1913. As soon as all effort disappears from a manifestation, it becomes very simple, with the simplicity of a flower opening, manifesting its beauty and spreading its fragrance without clamor or vehement gesture. And in this simplicity lies the greatest power, the power which is least mixed and least gives rise to harmful reactions. The power of the vital should be mistrusted. It is a tempter on the path of the work, and there is always a risk of falling into its trap, for it gives you the taste of immediate results, and in our first eagerness to do the work well, we let ourselves be carried away to make use of this power. But very soon it deflects all our action from the right course and introduces a seed of illusion and death into what we do. Simplicity, simplicity, how sweet is the purity of thy presence. June 15, 1913. Even he who might have attained a perfect contemplation in silence and solitude would have arrived at it only by withdrawing from his body, by disregarding it, and so the substance of which the body is constituted would remain as impure, as imperfect as before, since he would have left it to itself and by a misguided mysticism through the lure of beyond the physical splendors, the egoistic desire to unite with thee for his own personal satisfaction. He would have turned his back upon the very reason of his earthly existence. He would have refused, like a coward, to accomplish his mission, the redemption and purification of matter. To know that a part of our being is perfectly pure, to commune with this purity, to be identified with it, can be useful only if this knowledge is later used to hasten the transfiguration of the earth, to accomplish thy sublime work. June 27, 1913. Thy voice is so modest, so impartial, so sublime in its patience and mercy that it does not make itself heard with any authority, any force of will, but comes like a cool breeze, sweet and pure, like a crystalline murmur that brings a note of harmony to a discordant concert. Yet for him who knows how to listen to the note, to breathe that breeze, it holds such treasures of beauty, such a fragrance of pure serenity and noble grandeur, that all foolish illusions vanish or are transformed into a joyful acceptance of the marvelous truth that has been glimpsed. August 2nd, 1913. This morning, as I was glancing over the month that is beginning and wondering how I could serve thee better, I heard the small voice within like a murmur in the silence, and this is what it said to me. See how very little all outer circumstances matter. Why strive and strain so to realize thy own conception of truth? Be suppler, more trusting. The only duty is not to let oneself be troubled by anything. To torment oneself about doing the right thing causes as much harm as a bad will. Only in a calm as of deep waters can be found the possibility of true service. And this reply was so luminous and pure, it carried within itself such a striking reality, that the state it described was communicated without any difficulty. It seemed to me I was floating in the calm of deep waters. I understood, I saw clearly what the best attitude would be, and now I have only to ask thee, O sublime Master, my supreme teacher, to give me the strength and clear-sightedness I need to remain constantly in this state. Do not torment thyself, child. Silence, peace, peace. August 17, 1913. O Lord, Master of our life, let us soar very high above all care for our material preservation. Nothing is more humiliating and depressing than these thoughts so constantly turned towards the preservation of the body. These preoccupations with health, the means of subsistence, the framework of life. How very insignificant is all this! A thin smoke that a simple breath can disperse, or a single thought turned towards thee, dispel like a vain mirage. Deliver those who are in this bondage, O Lord, even as those who are the slaves of passion. On the path that leads to thee, these obstacles are at once terrible and puerile. Terrible for those who are yet under their sway, puerile for one who has passed beyond. How shall I describe that utter relief, that delightful lightness which comes when one is free from all anxiety for oneself, for one's life and health and satisfaction, and even one's progress? This relief, this deliverance, thou hast granted to me, O thou divine Master, life of my life and light of my light, O thou who unceasingly teach me, love, and make me know the purpose of my existence. It is thou who live in me, thou alone. And why should I be preoccupied with myself and what might happen to me? Thou art all that illumines and enraptures us, the whole reason of our existence and all our goal. Is this not enough to cure us of every personal thought, to make us spread our wings and soar above the contingencies of material life, so as to fly away into thy divine atmosphere and be able to return as thy messengers to the earth to announce the glorious tidings of thy approaching advent? November 28, 1913. In this calm concentration, which comes before daybreak more than at any other moment, my thought rises to Thee, O Lord of our being, in an ardent prayer. Grant that this day which is about to dawn may bring to the earth and to man a little more of pure light and true peace. May Thy manifestation be more complete and Thy sweet law more widely recognized. May something higher, nobler, more true be revealed to mankind. May a vaster and deeper love spread abroad so that all painful wounds may be healed. And may this first sunbeam dawning upon the earth be the herald of joy and harmony, a symbol of the glorious splendor hidden in the essence of life. O Divine Master, grant that today may bring to us a completer consecration to Thy will, a more integral gift of ourselves to Thy work, a more total forgetfulness of self, a greater illumination, a purer love. Grant that in a communion growing ever deeper, more constant and entire, we may be united always more and more closely to Thee and become Thy servitors, worthy of Thee. Remove from us all egoism, root out all petty vanity, greed, and obscurity. May we be all ablaze with Thy divine love. Make us Thy torches in the world. December 28, 1928. There is a power that no ruler can command. There is a happiness that no earthly success can bring. There is a inner heavenly light that no wisdom can possess. There is a knowledge that no philosophy and no science can master. There is a bliss of which no satisfaction of desire can give the enjoyment. There is a thirst for love that no human relation can appease. There is a peace that one finds nowhere, not even in death. It is the power, the happiness, the light, the knowledge, the bliss, the love, the peace that flow from the divine grace. Radiant viewers, we thank you for your kind presence for today's episode of Words of Wisdom.